I'm Randy Rohde, and I'm fascinated with entrepreneurs and small business owners. Plus, I love baseball. Every show, I sit down with a small business owner, and we discuss their running the bases of entrepreneurship. We throw the ball around on strategy, management, execution, and innovation. Plus, a little fun baseball talk. Hey, thanks for joining us today. Settle in, grab your Cracker Jacks, and you know what they say.
Play ball.
And it's a great day for a ball game. This is Randy Rohde with Running the Bases with Small Businesses. And I think you're in for a treat here. We've got a fun show planned out. How many times have you, as a small business owner, been listening to an industry business podcast, realizing you have some of the same issues, or perhaps some of the answers, or you think, I'd just like to connect with that guest? Well, imagine that you did reach out, and then imagine that you and this podcast guest connected, and you realized that the two of you would make a great team to come up with solutions to the issues. You form a company to help other small businesses and begin with a handful of people, and you begin to grow your business. And then imagine 2 years later, you have grown that business into a multi-million-dollar 150 plus employee enterprise, helping hundreds of other small business owners along the way. Well, our guests today don't have to imagine any of this because this is their story. Yes, not only is all of that I just mentioned true, but they founded their company in December of 2019, just a few months before the pandemic. So we're excited to learn about how their success came to be, how they can help other small businesses, and what's around the corner and where they will take their business next. So please welcome to the show today the co-founders of Niche Website Builders, Mark Mars and Adam Smith. Guys, welcome to the show.
Hey, Randy.
Thanks, Randy.
Man.
That was a great introduction.
That sounds great.
Summed up our story in like 1 minute. That's it. Podcast over.
Podcast over. All right, seal it up. Hey, before we jump into anything, though, I understand as well, our team pulled together that we've got congratulations here in order for you guys. You guys won a nice, prestigious award this summer at the Startup Awards, the national series there in Wales. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah. So I'll pick this one up. Yeah. So it was awesome. We got nominated. We've never applied for any awards or anything like that. So we kind of got nominated out of the blue, and we're like, oh, what is this? And we filled out the form, and we just kind of forgot about it. And then they came back and said, hey, you guys have been shortlisted for the finals. Please come for a night out in Cardiff, the capital of Wales, and bring some of your team. So we got a table. I think there was maybe 10 or 11 of us from the team that went down. Had a great night, great food, lots of drinks, especially after we found out that we'd won an award. There was even more drinks. And it was great. It was great to celebrate with the team. Great to actually win an award and be kind of recognized in the areas that we do. And hopefully the first of many. I think with the awards, it's kind of like you win one and then people see that you've won an award and you get nominated for more and things like that. So hopefully there's more to come in the future now.
Yeah, I love that. That is great. Well, congratulations. And did the two of you guys, did you dress in tuxes and, get all decked out? I don't know if it was that kind of an award show or what.
Well, I don't know whose fault it was. It was my fault, I think. I think I read the email wrong, the initial email, and I'm sure it said black tie attire, wear black tie dress code. And I was like, oh, okay. So told everyone to go and get black ties. We got all our tuxes ready. And then the day before the event, they sent out a kind of reminder email, and it said in big capital letters at the top, this is not a black tie event. I was like, oh my God, I've rented a tuxedo. I've told the team. Like,
oh, no.
So, if I hadn't seen that email, the whole team would have turned up in black tie and everyone else would have just been in smart casual.
Oh, that would have been great. And I'm sure you guys look quite dashing in your tuxedos. That's too bad we didn't get to see pics of that. All right. So listen, I'm super excited to be talking with you guys. And I will tell folks, I have actually personally have done some business with these guys with a site and domain that we've got picked up and are working on. But I guess maybe for our listeners, why don't you give us a rundown on what you do. What is Niche Website Builders?
Yeah, so I guess, we're a digital marketing agency, but I guess a different kind of digital marketing agency than the standard. So we don't work with other businesses. We, at the very highest level, essentially we help people monetize blogs. So that's anybody from someone who's got a full-time job, they got a blog on the side and they want to help kind of monetizing it and growing that blog, right through to the other end where we have people that we call portfolio owners. So they run that as that's their life, that's their business. They have a portfolio of websites, and maybe they've got eight, 9 websites, and they want help scaling it up. They just can't do it all themselves anymore, and they want help and support with growing all of their assets. And we also have people that are just pure investors. So we're trying to educate people in the investing world, people that may be investing in crypto or in stocks or in property, that actually there's another option. There's an alternative class of investment, which is website investing, essentially. So we're trying to educate people there, and we're having a few people that are just pure investors that come in. They have no idea how to set up a website or do SEO, but they come to us with some cash, and we come up with a plan for them to kind of grow and build a website. That's at the highest level. That's what we do. I guess this is an industry that's growing very quickly, becoming more and more popular. There's more and more people moving into this space, and hence why we've kind of grown pretty quickly. But I guess a lot of people don't realize, even Adam and I, I've been in SEO for like 15 years, and it was only dawned on me like a few years, like 5 years ago, like, hey, this thing really exists, and I've got all the skills. Like you can sell a blog for around 40 times now what it makes monthly. So if it makes £1,000 a month, you can sell it for around 40,000. So scale that up as much as you like, depending how much you make monthly, and you can make a very healthy income, and buying and selling and growing websites. So yeah, that's how we met. And I'll stop talking now.
I know, Adam, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, I think Mark did a good job there. Yeah. So that's our predominant market, but we have also recently started working with other agencies as well. So what we realized was our main audience, our core audience, are very price sensitive because they're doing this from a pure investing perspective. If they add pieces of content to the website, for example, they need that to show an ROI. So they're very, very price sensitive and price conscious, which means we've worked extremely difficult to deliver a really high quality service at a really low quality price, a low price. And what we've realized and come to realize, and what we're now expanding into, is we can use that to work with other agencies on a white label capacity because of our, the price that we're able to offer lots of our services for and the quality of it. Lots of agencies now are coming to us to outsource their content or their link building. And that's a big growing area for us. So our core audience, like Mark said, are individuals and not businesses, but we've now got a very healthy subsection of agencies and B2B clients where they've realized that they don't have to pay these really, really expensive traditional agency prices for content. They can come to us and get very similar high quality content for basically what's a fraction of the cost they would traditionally pay.
I think it's funny. Well, not funny. It's interesting. You guys glossed over this thing about the valuation, people coming in and investing in these websites. And I think similar, Mark, you stated, it was just a few years ago, I realized this was a deal going on here. And I think in a larger part of the audience has no idea about really what this opportunity is or this industry as a whole. And so let me read a little bit. Maybe I think this actually is one of your many success stories, but this is a great story that's listed on your site. And by the way, folks, you have to go to their website. It's nichewebsite.builders, and they've got a ton of content on there and talking about their business and the success that they've helped individuals have in this particular area. And so, Mark, you kind of alluded to this a little bit, but you talk about on the site, you had a client been working with you for about a year now or so. They have a site built on an age domain. You followed your process, did your keyword research, wrote an initial batch of content, and then began building links, more content on the site. And today the site is earning, now this is the killer thing that I want to be sure the audience understands. So now and maybe you guys can elaborate on this a little bit, but now the site is earning shy of $40,000 a month. And given the valuation in the marketplace on sites, meaning selling your site, that it's about a 40 or so multiplier of whatever the monthly revenue is. So this site could be valued at $1.6 million right now. So it's an amazing return. I mean, there's very few. I mean, probably when people were thinking crypto is going to be the, the thing, like I'm going to, really multiply my investment. But I mean, it really is amazing. Now, it's not easy, and this is not like quick money, and I'm sure you guys can address that as well. But the opportunity is pretty huge to have an incredible ROI in this particular industry. So a couple of questions I want to ask kind of as a follow-up to this example. One, how are people monetizing the sites? And maybe if you can kind of touch base on that, because I think a lot of people may not quite understand, like, well, how did you get a website? What are they doing that it's earning $40,000 a month? And then two, who in the world are buying these sites then at that kind of a multiplier? Where's that marketplace? Because you don't see that out, on YouTube or out somebody like, hey, I'm looking to pay $1 million for a website. So talk about the industry itself a little bit, if you could.
Yeah. So there's a whole host of ways that you can monetize a website. So the most common ways that people start out with and people use is through ads. So having ads on their site, you can work with a number of ad networks. Some of the most popular ones in the blogging industry is Ezoic, Mediavine, and AdThrive. They're very popular. And essentially, you just place ads on your site, and you can make money from those. And actually, ad revenue has increased significantly over time. If you go to the Ezoic website, which is ezoic.com, you can look at the ad revenue index graph, which shows like over time, like how much people can relatively earn from ads. So historically, it used to be something that you'd think about as an afterthought, adding ads to your site as an additional income, because through things like AdSense, the money that you could earn was like so low that it was never a primary monetization method. Now you can absolutely make money just through ads and make a good lit. And in fact, the site that you've spoken about, I think I'm right in saying, Adam, it's 100% ads.
It is. Yeah, it's that $40,000 is 100% from display ads.
All ads. Revenue.
And it's just because traffic is coming to the site and the ads are being served up. So the individual is like, well, I've got to build an ad or do any of this. It's just they make a relationship with one of these, Ezoic or Medvine, and essentially just have it built into the site so that the ads are being served up through their network, and that's it. I don't have to worry about it. And I'm getting paid because thousands of people are looking at these ads.
That's it. And it's pretty passive, at that point. Like, there's certain things you've got to do to maintain a site and continue to make sure it doesn't get neglected, but very much kind of passive, really, at that point. And I guess the other most popular way of monetizing is through affiliate relationships. So if you're not familiar with affiliate, if your audience isn't familiar with affiliate and how that works, essentially, the easiest way to describe it is, maybe we review a product on the site. We help our client rank that article, which is reviewing that product. Somebody searches for that product review. They find it. They go to the site. They read the article. If they're then interested in the product, there's links through to places they can buy it. And one of those places could be Amazon, or it could be other places. And if somebody then ends up going and buying that product, or quite often any product, then they can get an income from or a commission from referring that person, essentially. So those are the two most common ways. But once you've got a site established and you've got an audience, then the world's your oyster. It depends on what niche you're in, but it could be that, you branch out into running courses, that you branch out into, when you're building a mailing list or building a community of some kind. Maybe you start to get a YouTube channel or something like that, which is something else you could kind of monetize. So, or even turn it into e-commerce as well. Maybe you can actually start aligning products with the people that are visiting your site. once you've kind of got to that point and you've got an audience coming, then there's lots and lots of opportunities for monetization beyond just ads or affiliate.
And I would imagine the broader and wider you kind of make that universe. So instead of just being a website, and by the way, if at a website doing 40,000 a month, that would be great. But if you're broadening out and you're also soliciting a mail list and you're connecting with people via email and you have an opportunity to generate some revenue that way, YouTube, you mentioned building that kind of a platform and connecting with people and expanding your audience. I would imagine, now, Adam, I'm going to go over to you. People who are interested in investing or buying these sites, that's even has to be even more attractive to them because it's essentially kind of spread out the potential audience over multiple other platforms and opportunity for revenue, obviously. So, Adam, who are these people that are buying these kind of sites at this kind of money?
Yeah, so just going back to that point, the more kind of assets that you have with the website. So if you've got a website and you've built a YouTube channel, or you've got a website and you've built a digital product, if that's a course, or you've got a community that comes along with it, then the value can be higher than that kind of 40x multiple as well. The more it starts to become a real, fully functioning business with a moat of social media around there and different assets and diversified revenue streams, the more valuable it becomes. So that 40x really is for kind of like the basic just display ads, for example. Like the higher you get and the more advanced you get, you can get a higher multiple. But in terms of who's buying, I mean, the scale is massive, from people that are selling sites for a couple of $1,000s all the way to people that are selling sites for millions. And there's lots of different marketplaces out there that facilitate the buying and selling of these assets. So I'll start by saying the asset class as a rule is very liquid. Like typically you can sell a website on pretty much any size scale up to a couple of $1 million, usually quicker than you could sell a property, for example. On the smaller end, anything kind of sub $100,000 mark, sometimes you can sell and buy within a couple of days. I've personally sold sites sub $100,000 literally within 2 to 3 days. And that's going from finding a buyer and then doing their due diligence to kind of agree on a sale. But there's a handful of kind of primary marketplaces out there. You've got places like Flippa. They buy and sell lots of different types of sites. They're a marketplace where you can list your site for sale and you can go and browse and see what other sites are for sale. You've got ones which are another one called Empire Flippers. They typically deal in the higher end. So I think the site has to be worth at least 6 figures to be listed on Empire Flippers. And then you go all the way then right to the higher end, and you've got people like FE International, which deal with bigger sites again. And just to give you some idea of the size of these sites or the size of these marketplaces, I found some preliminary data that Flippa as a marketplace has sold over $400 million worth of sites. Empire Flippers over 280 million. FE International sold over $1 billion worth of this type of asset. So it's a big space, it's a growing space, and in all honesty, I think it's only just getting started. I did a talk about this recently on our first Building Empires Live event. It was my closing keynote speech about the future of the industry. And over the last couple of years, we've seen lots of, they're called FBA aggregators. It's venture capital backed businesses that are buying up Amazon brands that sell fulfilled by Amazon. And they're rolling them all together into one big company, realizing synergies and increasing the value that way. And we've started to see something similar happening in the content and affiliate publishing space as well, where there's now VC-backed funds coming in and buying up these assets, coming up and buying these $1 million plus sites, rolling them all into their company, realizing the synergies that they've got because they're running multiple sites like this. They've got their own content teams, they've got their own link building teams, they've got their own in-house SEO expertise, and then eventually they're looking to exit, and usually the exit will be an IPO of some sort. And what they're then doing is, a 40x multiple on a monthly is, roughly a 3.5 times of the yearly profits. But on an IPO, you can realize a 10 to 12x of the yearly, and they're rolling them up, buying them for $1 million, and then valuing them when they go IPO at $4 to $5 million without really growing revenue. And if your audience was to go and check those out, there's a big one in the space called Future PLC Limited. If you go on the website and click on the brands they own, I guarantee you that everyone has been on at least one of their digital properties without knowing that it's owned by this one company, and that's what they're doing.
That is incredible. And I appreciate you tapped into, I think, what the future might hold in the industry, and just big numbers, big opportunities. Now, it's not easy work as well. So, it does take effort, and this is where you guys come in and with your services and helping support both building the site, building great content, and doing some other activities in helping the sites rank and such. But there does have to be a commitment. One of the things that I guess, check me if I'm misstating this, but, I think, Mark, you mentioned, the world is your oyster almost. I mean, when you're talking about, the name of your company, Niche Website Builders, it really is, it could be incredibly narrow niche on what your sites could be built on. I mean, if somebody had this great love and passion for baseballs and the manufacturing of baseballs or whatever, and the different styles and whatever, they could build a site about baseballs and then just start applying unique creative content and start building this thing off of that. So it doesn't have to be some supplement site or the outdoors or whatever. It can be whatever your passion and interest is.
Yeah, absolutely. We recommend in any case that you start narrow in terms of your niche, even if you're planning to be a broad site one day. And that's because, if you want to rank websites in Google, then you need to have built up what's called like topical authority, which means you need to have enough content on a specific topic to be able to for Google to recognize that you have some credibility here and some understanding of a specific space. So, if you wanted to create long-term a sports site, for example, which covered lots of different sports and writing articles on all different sports, well, we would say, but don't start with all the sports and then write one on baseball, one on basketball, one on tennis. You're never going to get that recognized for any authority in any of those spaces because you've written so little about it. So we would say start with baseball, or or start with baseballs, like you said, if you wanted to start with baseballs, and then you can branch out to the rest of baseball and other stuff, and then then once you've got some real good traction, you're starting to get some credibility within Google, you're starting to rank. Then, like, once you feel like you've filled out that sort of micro niche, if you like, or that smaller niche, that's when you can then start branching out into the next we call it shoulder niche. So you might go to the next niche, and then you got to fill that out as well. And then over time, you might end up with a broad sports site, but you got to start narrow. Otherwise, you're just not going to be successful.
So, I'll go ahead, Adam. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, and usually what you find as well is, even though you say you start narrow, start niche, the opportunities in those narrow spaces can be massive. So literally just thinking off the top of my head and going on the baseball analogy there, you can cover equipment reviews to start with, but then you can cover training. So how to get fitter, how to play better baseball, like how you train. You can cover from a coach's perspective, how you coach a baseball team. You can cover baseball stadiums. When were they built? How much what's the seating capacity, the history of them, how you get there. Do they allow, what's the nearest parking, or how much does parking cost? What's the food offered at the stadium? Like, if you sit down and think about just what we'd consider like a niche topic, baseball, you can actually broaden it out. There's a ton of different stuff you can cover within even a small space.
So if somebody was starting out in this, is this a heavy investment up front? I know personally because we've invested and have got working on a couple of these types of sites, but in general, how do you, I guess, pitch it, or how do you position it with folks?
There's a number of things that's exceptional about starting, about the opportunity that is website investing. One of the things is you can start with as little budget as you like, pretty much all you really need is a website and hosting. So all you're paying for at some point is hosting. If you've got time, if you're time rich, then there's no reason why you can't start writing blog articles yourself and start to channel it. And that's how a lot of us start, right? That's how Adam and I started. That's how a lot of people start off. They do it all themselves. They blog everything and then sell their first site, at which point maybe then they can start outsourcing some of that work. So actually, like the barrier, the entry level is really, really low. You don't have to you have to be time. You have to have time if you don't have money, but actually you can do it that way. So in terms of kind of further investment, we ultimately the more that you can put in is the more you're going to get out. So right. If you have a small amount of money to invest, then you're just going to go slower. You're just going to take a little bit more time. But the other great thing about this getting into this space is that once the site starts making some money, you don't have to put any new money in. You can just reinvest the money that the site is already making you in growing that asset bigger and bigger and bigger, and then maybe branching out and creating another site and building out a portfolio site. So once you get to a certain level, to start with, it just maybe subsidizes what you need to spend, but then actually it can just pay for itself to get bigger. And that is just something that is fantastic. Like once you get there, I'm not putting no new money in, but I'm just growing this asset.
That's a beautiful thing. All right. So that's great. I wanted to flip back a little bit. So I gave this great, introduction about you guys. I guess what is that truly how you guys connected and what's more to that story, I guess, and how you really kind of began to like, hey, let's do this business together.
No, that was it basically. So I was, prior to me and Mark meeting, we both kind of run our own portfolio of websites, and I was on a podcast talking about my frustrations of finding good quality freelance writers, and I tried the different platforms. I tried Upwork and places like that, and I tried different agencies that were in the space, and I couldn't really get the results that I needed that I wanted to grow my portfolio. And Mark heard me on the podcast and was like, "Oh, I'm having the same issues. Like I've tried the platforms, I've tried the agencies, and I'm having the same problem." So just messaged me on Facebook randomly. We live on the opposite side of the country, by the way. So I was like, okay, who is this Mark Mars that is messaging me saying, hey, we should meet up and talk about our problems? I'm like, I don't know what this is. But no, Mark offered to come down to Wales for the day, and we got talking and we got on really well. And we decided, well, between the two of us, we've got enough sites in our portfolio to build some resources to run our own sites. And we did. We hired a couple of writers and some uploaders and things like that to run our own sites, and then realized, like, hang on a minute, if we needed this desperately and we couldn't find it out there, there's got to be other people out there that are in a similar situation to us. And we launched the business and we launched the service, and Mark had already started documenting his case study, his journey of building one of his websites. So he already had a Facebook group and a small following doing that. And we launched to those guys, and very quickly took off very quickly, way quicker than we were expecting, to be honest. And it's just gone from there. I think still probably less than 15 times, Mark, we've probably met in actual real life, right? I think.
Yeah, because of COVID, it kind of really stopped it from happening so much. But yeah, we've not met that many times in real life.
And that is fast. I think that is amazing. And especially, you live in Wales. I don't even know exactly. I've seen it on the map, I guess, but I'm guessing Wales is maybe the size of Ohio, where I live. I don't know. It's, relative to the States. And it's amazing. You're probably a few hours drive, maybe, between the two of you, but just seeing each other only a handful of times. And here you've got this incredible company you guys have built. I want to talk about the growth and the trajectory just for a sec. So you started in December of 2019, about midway through your first year, you had about 22 employees. After your first year, you're up to about 65 employees. I think currently through the end of last year, you were actually over 170 employees. Last year, you had about 4.5 million in revenue. That is some great growth. I think many of the small business owners in the audience would salivate over that kind of growth that you've experienced over the last 3 years. And especially a chunk of that being in the pandemic era as well. But So one, congrats on that. That is terrific. The other, though, what were some of those challenges? I mean, when you face that kind of growth, and I think Adam, as you said, it grew much faster than what we expected or anticipated. So obviously, I'm sure you had some challenges with managing that kind of growth. Can you walk us through maybe a few of those? How did you overcome them? How did you face it?
Yeah, loads and loads of challenges, to be fair, Andy. lots of challenges. Lots of late nights as well for me and Mark, at least initially. So, there was, I think back, like I remember both of us working till 12, 1 o'clock in the night, and then back up and at it early the next morning in those initial first couple of months, trying to just cope with the scale of growth. But one of the standout things for challenges initially for us was the team grew really quick, and we didn't implement management or the correct management layers in place early enough. So it got to the point where, me and Mark were actually directly managing around 30 to 40 people, which is a lot of people to be managing directly. And that's everything. That's managing payroll, that's managing HR issues, that's delegating workloads, that's giving feedback, and, trying to basically be a manager to all these people and do a good job. So one of our takeaway points from that, if we were ever to do this again, would be we need a management layer early on, and we need a plan. We would need to plan out what our corporate structure should look like, what our organizational chart should probably look like a lot sooner than we did. It got to the point where we were just like, oh my God, we're being overrun with work because we're managing these people. As an afterthought, let's think about what our organizational structure should look like. And then from there we built it, but it was way too late, to be fair. We should have probably done that sooner. So for me, that was one of the big challenges.
To be fair, most people have a bit more time to kind of contemplate that. Like, I need a manager now. I've got like too many direct reports. But when we were hiring like multiple people a week just to cope with the work, like it wasn't even a thought. It was just like, God, we need more bodies. Let's just go. And we were interviewing like every day. And we didn't have time. Like before we knew it, like you say, we're a year in and we're at 65 people. We were just surviving. Like we just didn't, we weren't ready to think, do we need a manager now? It wasn't like, it's like shit. Yeah. Like when we got there, we're like, we really do. We need some managers now and some people to help us, like with the team.
Yeah. I think when I think about probably what you guys were kind of challenged with or struggling through is kind of this phrase that we kick around sometimes. It's like, hey, you're so busy working in the business that, to step out and work on the business, is challenging, to find that time to do that. And probably, as Adam's like, we spent a lot of late nights because you're right. Yeah. You're doing this stuff, trying to get people pointed in the right direction, let alone thinking about, all right, how do we manage this growth appropriately to keep it going forward? So obviously you guys took the right steps because you kept moving forward. So yeah, that growth. So when you kicked off, I just even thinking about, the first, 6 months. Now, obviously, you guys joined together. You started doing things of your own, sites that you were working on, and kind of that collaboration or pooled together, if you would. When did you kind of release it out to the world and say, hey, here's niche website builders, and then started soliciting clients? When did that happen? And what was that first 6 months like? Did it start slowly as a trickle? Obviously, probably not, considering, the growth that you guys have been on.
So we had, it was all real quick because I think Adam and I met in the September, and then we got our team together. This is great. This is working well. Maybe we should offer it out to a few people in the group. And that was kind of end of November. And we kind of registered the company in December because we realized, oh, wow, like we actually need to be a proper limited company here. It's not going to be just a small additional income. So yeah, I mean, we offered it out, and within the first week, first couple of days, we took hundreds of thousands of words of content orders. And we were like, oh shit, that we got to deal with this. So, we kind of set expectations to those people. Our original plan was that we wouldn't have a writing team in-house. And this was another of the challenges. We thought, we would handle the strategy and the planning and all of that stuff. And we would outsource some of the the content writing and things to another company.
Right.
And with Adam had been working with an agency that he was reasonably happy with in terms of content based in the US. That we contacted them and said, if we were to, do you offer white label? And if you do, like, can we kind of use your services to kind of fulfill some of our orders? And they were like, yeah, that's no problem. We said, hey, have you got scale? Can you scale up? And they're like, yeah, that's fine. That's no problem. We can handle whatever. What if it's a few 100,000 words? Yeah, that's fine. No problem. And it's like, great. So we just started taking these orders. We started passing these orders off to the other agency. We were doing all the keyword research and all of the strategic stuff, as I say, but actually the writing we were handing off. And this was going fine until a few weeks in, like we weren't getting any content back. And like we were promising within a month, because we started straight away on a subscription model. So you pay every month and you get an X number of words of content every month.
Right.
And then the content wasn't coming back in order for the next subscription was going to kind of come out, like the next payment. So we're like, where is our stuff? And like, they were really bad, and we didn't get anything back within the first month, I think. And then when it did start coming back, they'd clearly, we chose them because they were native English speaking. They were a US company, and they clearly taken these orders and outsourced again to non-native English speaking. So what we got back was dire, like the worst of the worst. Like you couldn't even read it. It didn't even make sense. And we're like, what is this? We can't use this. What is this? And then at that point, we just said, this isn't going to work. Like we have to have our own team that we can train, that we can be sure of the quality. Like this is going to, and so for the first, we actually put a pause at that point on any new orders for our clients. We paused their subscriptions as well. Said, look, it's going to take us a bit of time. We've got more orders than we expected, and we're just going to have to take some time. And Adam and I just sat and we spent evenings and weekends writing and editing and changing all of this content that we had got until we did hundreds of thousands of words ourselves.
Oh, geez.
Just to get it like to the standard that we wanted it, and then move on. So we kind of paused it for like 6 weeks or so, but at the same time we were hiring people so that when we did start again, that we had then a team of writers internally to do that. So that's how it started.
That I can only imagine just the nightmare that must have felt. And I can't even imagine. I mean, you guys are creative. You guys like writing probably, which is amazing, I think, because generally speaking, I know a lot of tech guys, and they're into tech and they're into building and designing the technology or the sites and all of the back end stuff. They're not necessarily the creative writers end of it, and you guys happen to be an incredible blend of that. But even if writing that, I can't imagine you'd be like, oh my gosh, I got to sit down and rewrite 100,000 words here. Is amazing. And now I think I read a stat. I think you're currently, so 100,000 words seems like a lot, certainly to people. But I think I read a stat or a comment somewhere now that you guys are doing like 7 to 8 million words of content every month. Is that right?
Yeah, it fluctuates. So,
holy mackerel.
Yeah, so Black Friday, that time period is our busiest time of the year.
Sure.
To have our best offers on Black Friday. And therefore we take a lot of orders in that time. So, and a lot of our portfolio owners or investors, they take advantage of that pricing at that time, and they might order like a million words, right? Or 500,000 words or something like that, just because, and we'll deliver it over time, just so they know that's the best price they're going to get all year. Right. So there's times in kind of November, December, January, maybe February, where we are doing at that kind of level. And then, around about now, we're kind of doing more like 4 to 5 million words a month. So it's kind of not as much. So we have to work on like scaling up and down the team. And we've learned now through a couple of iterations of doing it, like when we need to do that and how we need to scale the team to cope for the ups and downs.
That is crazy. That is just an absurd amount of content, I think. Only knowing what we provide and what we put out there as well. All right. So, guys, here it is. It's that time.
It is time for the 7th inning stretch.
All right. Time for the 7th inning stretch, boys. Do you like baseball? Do you have baseball over in Wales? I don't even have any idea what you got going on over there.
Called Rounders, right? In the UK.
Yeah, Rounders, yes.
I really like baseball actually, but I don't, because of it's on at strange times in the.
Yeah.
So I don't watch UK based baseball. I watch the US baseball. I haven't watched it for a long time because it's just on at strange times of the day, or you have to pick it up. I can pick it off on demand stuff, but I used to I went to the US when I was quite young. We went to like Disney World, Standard, and I just got obsessed with baseball at that time. I used to sit up watching the baseball until like the early hours in the morning when everyone else has gone to bed, and like watching all the replays. And I got absolutely, honestly, I got addicted to it. And
nice.
And I really, really loved it. And when I came home, I was then continuing to watch it. And we then went to Canada like some years later, and we actually went to like a Toronto Blue Jays versus Boston Red Sox. And kind of witnessed like a game in the flesh. I actually been more recently as well, and I used to work for Microsoft, so I'd end up going to Seattle quite a lot.
Sure.
Seattle.
Saw the Mariners.
Yeah, the Mariners play. But I find it. I don't know how you think. What do you think? But I think there's some sports that suit television more than they suit like live, and vice versa. I find like baseball much more enthralling like live, because if you're sitting way back and the guy's small throwing the ball, like it's hard to see. But picking it up on the rules on the telly, and I do really like it. If I was living in the US, I know I love American football as well, and I'll just be watching those all the time.
I do love one of my all-time favorite things in life is going to a baseball game. I love the atmosphere, the energy, every little nuance of it is just like such a happy place for me. So I love it. All right, well, here comes your question. So you guys are in this kind of website building, developing kind of industry here. So here's a question for you. This is your seventh inning question. Does a website ever go on strike?
I could take that one. So I guess on strike, I guess we can talk about like some of the risks and the challenges that come with like building websites and through website investing. So it's not always plain sailing. So I probably should caveat as well is like we don't in 1 year make people 1.6 million pound assets like every single time. Right? That doesn't happen. So, and of course, this guy like reinvested a lot of that $40,000 a month into that growing that asset. So, but at the same time, we do help a lot of people. We get emails from people who quit their day job because they now have their own websites and that they live off that. But does it go on strike? Like, it's ups and downs, ebbs and flows. You've got to be patient to start with when you're first starting a site. And sometimes you'll find that it plateaus and you're putting more work in, but you're not getting more out.
Right.
And that's just part of the course. That just happens. And you just got to keep sticking at it. Now, the risk part comes with things like Google updates. Like a Google update could come along and be punishing and brutal, and for no apparent reason, your site might lose a bunch of its traffic that it once had, and then you've got to kind of figure out, okay, why me?
Right.
And what can I do to fix that? So it's not always plain sailing, as in maybe owning a physical property where you can guarantee a certain level of rent, and it's there. Like it's a digital property. The returns can be way, way, way higher, but there is an element of like it fluctuates. It can go up and down, and you're at Google's mercy somewhat, which is why we recommend diversifying traffic streams, not just Google, as well as revenue streams.
So think about this. So in December, if you followed a little bit, even in baseball, so on December 1st, the Players Association in baseball and the owners essentially their agreements, their contract with each other ended. So they call it a collective bargaining agreement, right? So it stopped. So MLB essentially kind of stopped because like, hey, the players aren't going to play. The owners locked them out of the stadiums and the clubhouses, and everything just kind of stopped. Simultaneously, then the very next day, MLB has a huge website, and they essentially had to pull all of anything that was about active players, any kinds of active player videos, active player stories. They pulled it all off. And if you went on to the MLB website on December 2nd, you'd probably go on and it would have looked like a website that was built in 1996. It was horrendous. And it was just all of this archaic kind of information out there. And MLB essentially said, well, because of the collective bargaining agreement, we're going to have to make a change to our website as well. And so effectively their website went on strike.
Right.
And when the agreement was finally reached, then in March of 2022, I think March 10th, actually, the MLB kind of flipped the site back on to what it was and immediately crashed the site because of the overload of people going to the site, the traffic, right? Crazy. Yes. So yeah, website can go on strike for a lot of different reasons, as you laid out, Mark. Yeah, that's crazy. Well, hey, thanks for playing that little baseball seventh inning stretch for you. All right, well, let's get back into it.
Play ball.
So you grew your business. I want to ask you about marketing a little bit. So we talked about the growth of your company. How did you spend your time and efforts on marketing the company and the services?
Yeah, so marketing, and even to this day, so from the very beginning right through until now, kind of the main core of or ethos of our marketing has been to give away knowledge, to educate rather than to sell. And we truly believe in that. We truly believe in educating rather than just pushing services and selling. And that's influenced how we position our marketing. So from the very beginning, Mark had his case study of how he was building his one of his own websites, and that was kind of the starting point for our initial audience. And we carried on with that. When I joined with Mark, I started another case study alongside him, and together we did lots of over-the-shoulder kind of stuff of, this is what we're doing, these are recording videos, this is how we're setting this up in analytics. And essentially we give away like 100% of our knowledge. It's not we're not secretive about what we do. Anybody can go and watch our YouTube channel and listen to our podcast and literally discover exactly what we do. And as part of that, we hope, or we know, that there'll be people out there which will take the knowledge that we've shared and go and do it and implement themselves, which is great. That's awesome if they've got the time to do that. But there's a lot of people out there that don't either have the time or even the desire to want to learn how to do that, because even though we share the information and tell you how to do it, there's still a learning curve involved, and they become our customers. So initially we started doing this by going on other people's podcasts and other people's YouTube channels and basically just sharing our knowledge, sharing what we found worked and what we found didn't work, and aspects like that of our own websites, of how we built them. And then we started building our own channel. So now we have a podcast where we interview other people and listen to their success stories and kind of quiz them what's working and kind of give back that way. And we also have a YouTube podcast live every week, twice a week, where we do everything from show you how we tear down our age domains that are for sale in our inventory. Like, these are the exact things that we look at when we do our due diligence, all the way through to talk about keyword research. We recently launched a new service all about internal linking, and Mark did an hour presentation with screenshots and videos of this is exactly the step-by-step process that we use to do this service. These are the tools you need. This is how you do it. Knowing obviously that, like I say, some people won't have the desire or the time to do it, and they'll come and use our service. But that's really been key for us and what's been at our core. And I think what's allowed us to grow and also come across as genuine, because people understand that we are in the trenches daily. We're doing these things with our own websites. We're amending our services. We're adding new services as and when we see things working or not working. And that really sets us apart from other agencies that are directly in our space. I always think back, it must have been horrible for them, but a competing agency, the founder did an interview and he said, well, I couldn't make websites work for myself, so I thought I'd start an agency and sell content and links to other people. We're like, what? That's totally that's the wrong way to do it. You need to make it work for yourself. And I believe that's why we've been successful and grown so quick.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's great. And I love the phrase. I think, we wanted to give away knowledge as a means of marketing, as a means of kind of growing your brand. And I think you've been quite successful at that, because Folks, if you go under their website, nichewebsite.builders, you've got just a ton of content on there. I mean, between your podcasts, your articles, your interviews, slick over to your YouTube channel. It is amazing the volume of content that you guys produce. And I think it's a great strategy. I absolutely am a big advocate of that approach. Clearly, it's worked for you. And I'm sure, Adam, as you state, some people will have the time and they'll follow it, the recipe directly, and they'll craft their great success. And then others are like, wow, okay, now I got it. And then they never move off the dime, right? They get stuck there. And then a lot of people, I'm sure, just come right over to you guys and say, just do it for us. just do the work. All right. I'll pay you, right? It's time or money, right? It's going to cost you something.
Just to add on to that point as well, we believe in that not just for our audience, for our customer base as well. We also believe in that for our team members, for our members of staff. Like, we actively encourage them to do this for themselves, to build their own websites. We've spent thousands and thousands of dollars on different training courses for them. We have a whole channel dedicated to website investing on our Slack channel and our Slack group, where the team can talk about it and ask for help or ask for advice. And that's allowed us to build like a team of actual experts that are similar to myself and Mark, that are living and breathing this every day and are doing the same for themselves. And that has made a massive difference. We've recently got one of our members of staff, Elena, she's a website investing specialist at the business, to come and start hosting our podcast with us, one of our live streams, to share her experience. And it's great. Customers see that when they come through the system and they can speak to others who have been through the journey, especially when they're starting out and they're like 4 months in. And like Mark said, you need to have patience in this space. And they're 4 months in and they say, well, what's going on? I've invested. Why am I not mega rich yet? And they can share their own experiences and their own journey and put them at ease and say, look, I didn't see anything for the first 6 months either, but believe in the process. And that's been really helpful too, I think, and lots of business, I think, shy away from that. They shy away from encouraging their employees maybe to do that kind of thing. Honestly, it would make me and Mark so happy when the first employee leaves our business because they've now making enough money on their website. Not all at once. Like, we would hate it if they all left at the same time. But like when our first one says, hey, like, guys, look, I've made this really successful site. I'm now ready to leave the business because I want to focus on this full time. Like, that would be awesome, because it's what me and Mark, it's what I did specifically when I left my job. And that would be awesome.
Yeah, I was just going to say, there you have some employees, and the support and the encouragement that you do, but you're going to have some staff that's going to do the Adam show repeat, right? Where you have such great success, like, okay, I'm out of here. I'm going to go do my own and just focus on this full time. That's great. So you've built the company. You've got this large pool of employees now. Are you... And just thinking about the world's kind of labor constraints, I think is a good word for it right now. How are you guys handling kind of those staffing challenges? Are you remote? Do you have people come in? I mean, I think in your industry, probably remote works very well. I think I saw recently, check me, I got it in my notes somewhere in here. I thought you guys had a kind of your first team gathering at some point. Walk us through a little bit. How do you manage 170 employees and that process, I guess? How do you build the team and the culture?
Yeah. So we had we planned to be remote even before COVID came along. So the original plan was we live quite far apart, but we decided that Adam already had an office that he went to just for himself so that he could get out of the house, and that could host like 4 or 5 people. And so we said, what we'll do is we'll get people in and they'll come into the office for a couple of months. We'll get them trained up, and then like we'll ship them out remote, and like we'll just bring all the new people in. They just come in, they get to meet people and just live and breathe it, and then go remote. So we started that, and then COVID came along 4 months later, and it was just, okay, we're 100% remote. Nobody comes into the office. Like that's just the way it is. So yeah, so it was challenging, as we said, because we grew the team, and we had, for the first year, we had a weekly company meeting, Zoom meeting, and that just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and more voices like speaking up in that, and we realized we had to break those down, and coming along with the management. the way that we handle it now is that we have a bi-monthly meetup in person where we all meet up in kind of Cardiff. Now, not everybody lives in South Wales. A lot of the team does, but a lot of some of the other team lives around the country now as well. So we don't force them to come if they're like a flight away or whatever, but like we'd like to see them from time to time. And then in between, there's every other month we have like a Zoom based company meeting. So we do a monthly company meeting. In the new year, we're going to start doing more like team building activities. We tried to do something small. We did a yoga. Somebody came in and taught like yoga and meditation at our last one. We're going to have kind of more outdoor activities and in-person stuff in the new year as well to try and build that. But now we break down the teams, and the teams do kind of, between them, they kind of have their own things that they do as well now. That we don't even like set up or control. They just kind of do it, and they kind of have their own stuff that they kind of decide that they're going to do to. But we're really focusing on that right now. It's something we brought in an HR person at the end of last year to work full time within the business, where we had outsourced that before, to work on culture and inclusion and mental health and all of those kind of things. So we recently brought in mental health benefits as well. So we're just trying to. It's something that we're really working on, improving how we can improve culture on a remote basis, and it's something that we're constantly looking to improve and focusing on.
Right. What's around the corner for you guys? You've started adding in some services. I think Adam mentioned, you're doing some link building and you're looking to work with agencies. When you start thinking, hopefully you guys have had the opportunity to take some time back and begin to think, okay, how do we continue to grow the business and think about what's around the corner, next year, 3 years from now? What do you guys see? What do you think? Niche website builders, where's it going?
Yeah. So, I mean, on a broad level, and we've made the mistake of just saying year on year, we just want to keep doubling the size of the business and keep growing, but that's not really, it's not really our mission statement. I think the first thing that we want to do is fulfill what actually is our mission statement, which is to be the one-stop shop for people that are investing in content and affiliate websites. And that means that we need to launch a couple more services to ensure that we offer the full kind of end-to-end range of everything you need to grow and build and successfully exit and potentially even acquire a content or affiliate type of website. So that's first and foremost. That's kind of our primary goal, is to be that one-stop shop. And then outside of that, like I mentioned at the beginning, is to open up into new markets. So to become the white label partner and white label solution for other agencies to allow them to scale their operations through us. When you're an agency owner, for example, and you might be currently outsourcing your content to freelancers, you might be having to juggle paying all the different freelancers, the headache of chatting and organizing 10 or 15 different freelancers and stuff coming back not on time and stuff. Whereas with our service, you get one dedicated account manager and that's it. We handle everything else. We'll handle the strategy and all that kind of stuff. So I think we're really well positioned to scale the business through white labeling for other agencies, and also more B2B stuff, more actual direct business to business. We've done quite a bit of that coming into the second half of this year, and we're really keen to ramp that up again because we've got the economies of scale now. We've got the experience and expertise in house to run SEO across different industries. It makes sense considering that we can come at it from a real good price point for most businesses and most agencies that we would scale that. So that's where the next 12 months is for us. And then we'll probably take a breath after that, reevaluate and see where we are again, I guess. But they're the near-term goals. Yeah,
time to take a breath at some point. All right. Hey, guys, so here we are. We're at the bottom of the ninth. And this is where we always ask our guests, what advice do you have for rookies in the game? Those folks just starting out in business or maybe who already have businesses and are looking for some guidance. You guys have had just a great run of it thus far, a great experience. What kind of words of wisdom do you have for those just starting out in business?
I'll just kick it off with the first one, which we've alluded to, is think about the business structure up front before you get too big. Think about how your management structure will sit, who you want to assign certain tasks to, and how that flow of information is going to flow from top to bottom or and back up. Make sure that you are hiring the right people in the right places as early as you can. It's really challenging, especially for new business owners, because of cash flow, and you think, oh, can I really afford a manager, or can I afford a director of operations to oversee the operations of the business? But what that allows you to do, especially as a small business owner, is like you said, Randy, is take a step back, start working on the business rather than in the business, and focusing on the bigger picture and the direction, rather than just being stuck in the weeds, delivering the service, actually speaking to, doing all the work hands-on. It's really hard to grow and scale properly if you are doing that. So my biggest takeaway, if we were to do this again, would be to get that right from the start.
Yeah, find a way. I think to because like we were probably late again. We hired a senior management team end of last year, start of this year, and well, we wish we'd done that sooner as well, because we feel like we made the same mistake again. Like now we can really be much more hands off because they're helping us actually run the day-to-day business. I think it is really difficult because I've had another business where it felt just impossible, but somehow I think find a way to do that, because then you can really scale up. I think the other thing I would say is that make sure you've got some kind of support network kind of around you, because it can be a lonely place if you're running a business on your own as a solo director, solo entrepreneur. Because I ran an agency previously, which I was the only solo, and it is a lonely place. And I knew that next time I was going to do something, I wanted to have a partner to do it with. And I often mention that there's an accountancy firm in the UK that focus purely working with agencies, and they do what they call what do they call it? They basically do a survey.
The industry kind of survey, isn't it?
Yeah, like bench press, they call it.
Yeah.
Survey, where they kind of take a look at all of the different, what do people charge per hour at an agency? What's all the different things like they do? And it always became clear to me that the most successful agencies had a couple of directors. Like the ones that didn't have had one director, either they grew much more slowly, or they failed to exist anymore. Whereas the people that had two directors, actually they can share the load of that admin and that stuff that comes with just running the business, which is almost like a full-time job in itself, let alone everything else that goes with it. So I think if you don't have that, it's like surround yourself with people that you can talk to that maybe does have some of that experience, because trying to forge your way through something as a first-time business owner and making all those mistakes along the way and not really sure if you're doing it right and having the conviction, the confidence to make decisions, you just need to have a support network around you that can help you with that. I think this is something I'd say.
Yeah, I'll tell you, that's great advice. Obviously, it's been good advice. You guys have learned it and now are as well exercising it. So, hey, I just want to say thanks for you guys for being on the show. I do want to just give a few more recognition and some links for folks. So again, go hit them up, niche website .builders. And the guys also talked about they have a conference or seminar that they run on an annual basis, Building Empires. And they've got one coming up in January of 23, and you can go find that at building.empires.live. And it's a online 5-day event, free, which is great. That fits anybody's budget, which is terrific. Plus, they've got, as I've mentioned earlier, just a ton of great content and available for folks if you want to get into kind of building your own empire. Yeah, so niche website builders. You guys do a great work, great service. Love what you guys do. Thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun talking with you guys.
Thanks, Randy.
All right.
Enjoyed it as well.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you. And folks, that is the ball game. Thanks for joining us today. And if you liked our show, please tell your friends, subscribe and review, and we'll see you around the ballpark. Running the Bases with Small Businesses is brought to you by 38 Digital Market, a digital marketing agency committed to client growth with lead generation, higher conversions, and increased sales. Connect with us today at 38digitalmarket.com.